A lot of people want to become a network engineer, but simply do not know what skills it actually takes in order to become a network engineer. In this video, I'm going to break down some of my favorite topics as they relate to the field of networking. And by the end of this video, you should have a clear, or at least a better understanding about network fundamentals. My name is Chris Kwashi, also known as Techie Chris, and I am a network engineer who has been in the field for multiple years. And I believe having a strong understanding of the foundations of networking is extremely important, especially when you want to grow inside of your career. Having that background of networking allows you to maneuver in a lot of different fields that you probably would not be able to maneuver into if you did not have that background. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and get straight to this video. So guys, let's just start with the most basic question, right? And the most basic question is, what is a network? What is even a network? Pretty much in my words, what I see a network is a group of devices that are able to communicate with each other. Usually they're able to share data with one another. Also, they typically or ideally have some form of internet access. So you can pretty much think of that as maybe a small business office, maybe the network that's in your house that pretty much has like a central router and all devices connect to that router and get internet from that router. Even a business with like thousands and thousands of employees across the globe, that is still a network. These networks are extremely essential, especially for businesses, so you are able to communicate with other people within the business and also externally outside of the business. A lot of people like to think of a network as a road, right? And the road where data is able to travel. Data can get from my house right here, me recording this video, to wherever you are across the world because there is a network that makes that possible. Without the idea of networking, pretty much every computer would be isolated and would not be able to talk to other computers. And that's not only limited to computers, they wouldn't be able to talk to cell phones, they wouldn't be able to share emails. All these things would not be possible if there wasn't a network that connected all these devices together. So now that you guys have a basic understanding of like what the network is, right? It is very important that you guys know that every single device that is on a network needs to have some way to identify itself. And that is where the idea of IP addresses come in. Imagine this, right? When you are online browsing and online shopping and you found exactly what you want. And maybe what you want is this nice pair of shoes that you've been eyeing for so long, right? Well, when you press order, the delivery guy cannot just guess where your house is, right? You have to put in your actual physical address so the delivery guy can send that to your address. Well, pretty much networks follow that same rule, right? In order to get traffic from one place to another, every device within that network has to have an IP address that is allocated to that specific device. For example, an IP address would be something like 192.168.1.20. If you want to send an email from your phone to your laptop, your phone is going to need to get the IP address of your laptop in order to forward that information to it. And with IP addressing, there are two main types of IP addresses. That's going to be private IP addresses and public IP addresses. First of all, let's talk private IP addresses, as these are the most common IP addresses that you are going to see. And also they follow a constant standard, so it's a lot easier to memorize the IP addresses. There's usually class A, class B, and class C. For class A, anything that falls within the 10.0.0.0 range is usually a private IP address. For class B, anything that falls into 172.16.0.0 to about 172.31.255.255, this will fall into a class B private IP address. In class C IP addresses, these are actually the most popular one that you are likely to see. They usually fall within 192.168.0.0. So now that you have an understanding of those IP address ranges, you need to understand that private IP addresses are usually used for internal use, like your home or maybe your business. That's when you're going to use a private IP address. But public IP addresses are usually assigned by your internet service provider. Most of the time, you're going to interface with the private IP addresses more often than you interface with the public IP addresses, depending on your scope of work. If you work at an internet service provider and you're distributing out those IP addresses, you're more than likely going to run into public IP addresses a lot more than somebody who works within an enterprise setting. But just so you know, guys, IP addresses are extremely important for how devices identify themselves on the network. And I say that, but you guys need to know that IP addresses are not the only way that devices are going to identify themselves on the network, because this is where the MAC address comes into play, right? So the thing about IP address, an IP address is subject to change. An IP address, you can have a static IP address, yes, but if your IP address isn't static, more than likely your IP address will renew and then it will change, pretty much. But the thing about MAC addresses is that a MAC address usually does not change. A MAC address is an address that is pretty much given to the device when it's made from the factory. And every network device will have a MAC address. An example MAC address would be something like this. If you want to think of it like this, an IP address is similar to kind of like where you live, like where is your address, but the MAC address is something that really won't change about you. It's like your fingerprint. Your fingerprint doesn't really change about you. That is what a MAC address is. It's engraved into the device. And another big thing to differentiate these two is that switches usually we use MAC addresses to talk, whereas routers we use IP addresses to talk. So now that you guys understand IP addressing, you guys understand what a network is, you guys understand MAC addresses, well, what actually connects these devices together? This is where we get into the hardware. Now we're talking about the switches. A switch is a layer 2 network device that uses MAC address to talk with one another. Pretty much if you have 5 devices and you connect them all up on a local switch, right? All those devices will pretty much be able to talk to one another locally. So you'll be able to run pings from device 1 to device 2 and from device 2 to maybe device 4 without an issue. And if you're wondering how these devices are communicating on that switch, it's because they're communicating through MAC addresses. There's a host MAC and there's a destination MAC, and it's stored inside this thing called a CAM table. It uses things like port security to make sure that devices don't touch a specific port unless they have a specific MAC address. I mean, there's a whole lot of possibilities when it comes to layer 2 and switches. But there is a problem when it comes to switches. With switches, you know how I told you device 1 can talk to device 2 and device 2 can talk to device 4 on the switch. But if device 4 wants to get out to the internet, there's no way for these devices to talk to the internet because they're only speaking with MAC addresses on layer 2. And this is where routers come into play. Routers are devices that are used to connect different networks together. Pretty much think of it like this. If you have a switch, the switch only knows about your house. So this is my house, this is where I am. The switch only knows about my house. But what if I want to go to my neighbor's house? Or what if I want to go across the street to my cousin's house, right? Well, pretty much the houses are separate networks and the switch doesn't know how to get out to those networks. The router is going to know how to get to those networks. That's why the router comes into play. The router is going to know how to get to those other networks. Routers are pretty much connecting different networks together, so you're able to get out to the internet and you're able to get traffic back in from the internet. So like I said, you think of it like this. You're inside your network, that is your house, this is your network, but you need a router to be able to get to your neighbor's house. So the router connects you guys together, and that path that it's using is going over the internet. And because these routers are connecting these different networks together, this is the reason you're able to get to websites like google.com. But we have another issue. Yeah, when you go on your computer, you type in google.com, but the thing is your computer doesn't actually know what the IP address of google.com is. Well, if you said DNS, you are absolutely correct. DNS, also known as domain name system, is the reason why when you type in google.com, you actually get to google.com. Let's be very honest, nobody actually memorizes IP addresses, right? Nobody memorizes every IP address because that's not feasible. If you were to sit here and try to remember every IP address to every website that you've ever been to, it's really, really hard. It's pretty much like the internet's phone book. It translates those human readable names like a google.com into IP addresses. With DNS, we literally have to memorize hundreds of IP addresses, and as humans, it's just pretty much not feasible at all for us to do that. But with all this IP talk and all these numbers and all this stuff that we're talking about, right? We never actually understood, how does your computer get that IP address that it has? Well, it's true. If you wanted to, you can go and statically assign every device in your network with a static IP address. And a lot of people do that. That's completely fine. But the more practical way of assigning devices in the network with IP addresses is DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Because think about this, right? If you walk into a coffee shop and you want to connect to the network, you sign into the network, you are immediately given an IP address as soon as you connect to that network. And that is a pre-configured IP address that is given to you within a specific scope that that network engineer who works at that coffee shop has already provided for that network. DHCP gives every device an IP address automatically within a certain scope of IP addresses. Without DHCP, every device would have to be configured manually, and that's just not practical. You don't want to go sit there and configure every single device manually. I'll be honest, I've done that before with about 100 devices. That is one of the most annoying jobs you can ever do. But even with DHCP, a lot of networks, they don't want every device on their network to just immediately have a similar IP address range. But also, they don't want to buy new routers for every time they want to split up the network somehow. So your next question might be, okay, how do they solve this issue then? Well, that would be with VLANs, virtual local area networks. VLANs are pretty much used as a way to logically split up the network without having to buy extra hardware, right? VLANs increase the security within the network, they increase the pretty much availability, integrity, they increase a lot of things. Pretty much I have two devices that are on one router, and then both of those devices are connected to the same switch. But I don't want those devices to be able to talk to one another because I want them to be on separate networks. So what I would do is I would create a VLAN that separates those two networks. Like say if I have normal user data traffic, then I also have like voice traffic, and I want to separate those because I don't want any interference between those two different traffics. I can create VLANs, and those two devices can sit on two separate VLANs on the same switch. A lot of the times you'll see VLANs used within businesses when they are separating networks. Like maybe they might be separating the IT network versus the HR network. IT data versus HR data are going to obviously be two different types of data that is coming through, and the business probably doesn't want that data to mix. You can simply use VLANs to make that network a lot more secure. And apart from the security aspect, segmenting those things into VLANs also will help with the organization of the network and also the performance of the network. So you can pretty much have multiple different networks while having one switch. Isn't that cool? So now I want to actually talk to you about how data gets delivered. And this is where we go into TCP versus UDP. As you guys might know, TCP is a connection-oriented protocol and it's reliable. When you have a TCP packet, if something drops, TCP is going to send that packet again. TCP is usually used for things like banking and maybe things like email sharing, file downloads, things where you need the full packet to render when it's sent. UDP, on the other hand, is a connectionless protocol. UDP is all about the speed, whereas TCP takes a little bit more time because it wants to get you everything that you need. Like, think of it, if you're watching a video stream and the video stream is like a little bit buffery, like it's not completely clear, but you're still getting the video, you're still getting the internet, and you're still getting the content and the information that you need from the video stream, that's UDP working in action. UDP is not going to sit there and wait for every single packet to get there. It's just going to send it over to you, and whatever you get, you get. This same concept also happens with gaming and also like things like voice calls. Imagine you're a postman and you're shipping boxes, right? If I'm the postman and I'm working on TCP and I ask you, hey, did you receive your package? And you tell me no, I, as the postman, am going to try to send that again. Whereas the UDP postman, he's just gonna throw all the packages, make sure that it gets there. He's just gonna throw it. Hopefully it gets there. If it gets there, it gets there. But if it gets lost, that's not really his business at the moment. So now that we have all these concepts and we have a better understanding of all these things, let's try to understand what happens when you go to like youtube.com and you wanna watch a video or something. In other words, how do packets get to YouTube? So here's what happens. You go to YouTube, you type in youtube.com, and by this point, your device already has an IP address because you are on DHCP. Or if it's not using DHCP, it will statically assign, but I'm pretty sure you didn't statically assign your IP address. You go to the search bar, you type in youtube.com, and DNS helps you to get youtube.com's IP address. Your laptop sends that packet to your nearest switch. The switch forwards that info to the router, and the router is going to send that info out to your ISP. And during this process, it travels across many different routers across the internet. And it's bouncing through those routers, it eventually will get to youtube.com servers. That server will respond, and after it hits that server, the server responds and it does that same exact thing backwards, going back to your laptop. TCP will make sure everything arrives how it needs to arrive, and then that video will start playing. This process is extremely fast and it's really mind-blowing how all these things works in the back end. But yeah guys, that is it for this video. I've pretty much broken down many network engineering concepts for you so you guys can have a much better understanding of networking. I really hope that this video was helpful for you guys, and I wish you guys all success on your journey to becoming network engineers. But yeah guys, that is it for this video, and I'm out of here.